Hi friends, welcome to the Mastermind Moments podcast.
Hosted by your pals, Josh and Sasha.
Join us during our weekly mastermind as we collaborate on how to make the most out of our lives.
Not only are we going to mastermind our careers, we're going to work on all areas of life together.
Let's do it. Listen in as we make the most of our mastermind moments.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm excited about today.
Oh my God, me too. Today, guys, who's listening, we're with one of our best pals ever. We're with our gal pal, Katie. She's a Colorado native. She's an event planner. She's like our favorite debrief pal. We also know her from Tony Robbins summer camp as well. So she's here with us on the pod today, and we are so excited. Hey, Katie.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I feel so honored that you asked. I was like, who, me? You want me? I couldn't believe it.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. It should be a good time.
Me too. How long have we known Katie? I've known Katie since I was 17, so over 10 years now, I think.
Is that insane? Yeah, I think my first year at GYLS was 2014, so it's been at least 10 years.
Wow.
Nuts.
I don't know when we got close, Katie. I have no idea. I think that was like,
I don't know. I feel like it just happened.
yeah, it's like can't pinpoint which year. I think we didn't get close until 2018 or 2017. 2017 was the year that we got close, I think.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind is that picture of you and I doing the board break, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that was it, I guess.
Yeah.
That was the start.
I think that was the start too, and I only remember the year because I was going through a breakup.
Yeah. I remember hearing all about it.
Oh my God. Oh, okay, cool. So typically our first segment is spin a wheel, and obviously we'll spin a wheel. The question that we're going to answer is, what do you love most about the area where you live? Katie, what do you love most about the area where you live?
That's so funny you ask, because Sasha, when you came to visit me this summer, do you remember I just kept saying, it's 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
It's like 10 minutes from my house. We would go on a hike, in the valley right by my house, or we'd go out to dinner or drinks or whatever. And I just remember saying, it's right by my house. It's just right by my house. And I think that's what's cool about Colorado. I've lived here my whole life, so I can't compare it to anything else, but just the proximity to everything. And people who move here from other places, they never leave. People who've moved here from other states, other countries, they don't leave, because I think it's just all encompassing. You have so many elements. You have the mountains, you've got the city, you've got the suburbs, and no matter where you are, you just have that proximity to whatever you want to get into.
Except the beach.
Except that. But DIA is an international airport. You're just one flight away.
Fair. I mean, I feel like you're either a mountain person or a beach person.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think I'm a mountain person. I actually grew up in a ski town, which is 2 hours from here. My family still lives up there. And so as a kid, I would literally go skiing every single day. You would just keep your snow gear in the back of your car, because after school or after work, your parents would just take you and you'd go, and you would just spend so much of your time doing that. Now that I live a little bit further away, I probably haven't skied in years, because I think I just got it all out of my system, and I would rather be at the beach.
That's so funny. Josh, what about you? What's your favorite thing about the area where you live?
See, I'm the opposite of Katie, whereas in London, everything is about an hour away, so nothing is particularly close. Where you live, I mean, London is so big. I think it's one of the biggest, greater suburbia areas in the world. And so where I live is not very close to central London, but it's still technically London. So I don't love that, but I love how busy it is. I love how young it is. And also, I mean, I've always said I've lived all over the world. I've been to countries all over the world, but London is my favorite still. And even though I constantly say that I want to move out of London, I still love it to bits, because there's just always something happening. Always. There's always parties. There's something for everyone. Not just in parties, but in sports, in whatever your hobby is, there's always going to be something 7 days a week. I guess it's a typical big city. I suppose it's probably the same in places like New York, the sort of big cities. But yeah, I think that's my favorite thing, is that there's just always something going on. You can never really be bored here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is like one of those central hubs of the world too.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to get everywhere as well. I've traveled so much. I've been all over Europe, all over Asia, America, because it's so easy to get everywhere.
Yeah, completely. I'd say, well, we'll see what happens with fucking life. And for all the listeners, we'll get into it in a bit. But the things I love about Miami is I am a beach person. I love being next to the ocean. I love the climate. I love the sunshine. I recently with Miami, I'm starting to realize that it's a big city, small town. So every time I leave my apartment now, I recognize somebody. It's, hey, how are you? It doesn't matter where I go. I recognize somebody everywhere I go. I love how hot it is all the time. Like I feel so much happier without seasonal depression, not dealing with the winter. I really do. I really do love Miami. I do really love Miami, and it's potentially very sad that I'm leaving. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Regardless, so one thing that we typically go through like wheel of life and kind of talk about what areas are going well, what areas are not going well. But today I want to do something that's very Katie-esque, okay? We Katie's favorite thing to do as like a reflection in general is this thing called rosebud thorn. Katie, can you explain what that is?
I can. It is truly my favorite thing. I could rosebud thorn just about anything. I could rosebud thorn a trip to the grocery store, but I could also bud thorn an entire year. So essentially with the rosebud thorn, it's a way to debrief after anything or even maybe with yourself. But the rose, there's three components, the rose, the bud, and the thorn, right? The rose is essentially your favorite part about something. What was best? What was the highlight? What are you taking away that sparks joy? The thorn would obviously be the opposite of that. So what was difficult about something? What was like hard to navigate? What didn't you like? And then the bud is somewhere in between. What are you excited about? What's to come? What do you think that this leads to? And it's just a way to process it in, I don't know, like a cute little flower metaphor. But I remember Sasha was there for my wedding weekend. We spent like this whole weekend in this big house and like we ended the whole thing around a campfire and like people were playing guitar and it was just like one of the most romantic moments of my life with some of the closest
It
people
was so
around me.
wholesome. So wholesome.
It was the most wholesome thing, and it wasn't even my idea to start the rosebud thorn. It was like one of my husband's friends who lives in Alaska, and he's, should we rosebud thorn? Which was even more wholesome. So we all went around and said what our rose, our bud, and our thorn was of the whole wedding weekend, and like hearing other people's perspective. Not even just of that, but like even in other instances where I've done the rosebud and thorn, you think, oh, you did take that away. And that's really cute. Or I completely agree, like this part was really hard. This part was really difficult. But yeah, it's my favorite thing of all time.
Yeah, so today we're gonna rosebud thorn just life in general, and we'll go around chat and then we'll get into it. Feel free to get as deep as we want. We're here to like help each other through whatever is happening. So, Josh, why don't you start? What's going on rosebud thorn in life right now?
While Katie was talking, I was trying to think one for each. And interestingly, the hardest was the rose. I think, honestly, actually, right now, the rose for me is probably, and this is actually pretty much always a rose at the moment, is my friendships, so my social life, because that's not slowing down despite what happened a few weeks ago with being banned from that community. And my friendships have not exactly slowed down. So that's good. My relationship is going really well. So I think just relationships in general are going well right now. A thorn, I went up to Newcastle, which is right in the north of England, which is where my head office is, on Friday for a sort of a work night out. And like it was an all-in day because I don't work from the office, I work from home. And so they invite us up every couple of months just to hang out and say hi to everyone and meet new people. And I went up and ended up drinking, which I'm trying not to do at the moment, so that's not a good start. And I ended up going out with a big group of people who are all, I consider them all friends. They're colleagues, but also, I'd say, primarily friends. And there's one in particular who every single time we go out, he gets so fucked up. He gets so drunk and he does a bunch of drugs and he takes it too far, but he always has fun. right? He regrets it the next day, but he's always the life of the party because he's doing these things. Something switched this time, and I've been out with him so many different times. I've been at the company for over a year now. But something switched with him on Friday night where he just became very paranoid and he's effectively, I would honestly borderline describe it as a bit of a psychotic episode, and it was really scary. He came up to me at the club that we ended up at about 2 a.m. and he was convinced that I'd stolen his drugs. In his head, he thought he remembered me taking them. He remembered me running away with them. He remembered, he thought that me and my other friend had cornered him with a group of people who we didn't know and threatened to headbutt him. All of us headbutt him individually.
It's so funny. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't funny in the moment, but it's funny hearing it now.
I mean, okay, so it wasn't funny in the moment. I can look back and think how ridiculous it is. And he's since apologized. He sent me 2 messages today apologizing and saying how much he loves me and how sad he was to hear my voice message, because I sent him a message saying, what the fuck? But it was so crazy. I mean, it was just he completely turned on me. The loveliest guy, life of the party, he just flipped, and I thought he was going to attack me, so I had to leave the club. And when I left, I sent him a voice message saying, what the fuck? I decided to go back in to try and make peace, and he threw a punch at me, and it was just the craziest thing. And I think in my head, we've spoken about this before, Sasha, about me being punchable, right? And it's one thing having a punchable face to strangers, right? And how strangers always want to start fights with. But to have my own friend do that, it was really hurtful. And I'm really offended that you're laughing right now. I'm not actually, for the record. But I was so upset. I was like, this is never ending. Am I going to have to get plastic surgery or something to change, like maybe a facelift to give me a more endearing face? It was insane. And he's apologized, but that was definitely the thorn of the last week. That was really rough. And then a bud. I think, so I gave in my notice at work last week to leave the company. So I gave in 2 months notice to resign, and I regretted it immediately. Pretty much like a few days later, I was like, what am I doing? And now I have a decision to make where I either stick at the job and I completely shift my mindset to one of just pouring myself into work, which is not what I've been doing over the last 6 months or so. My work has revolved around my life, right? Not the other way around, which is how I think it should be. And obviously there needs to be a balance, but I need to be identifying more with what I'm doing, no identity within my job. So either I stick at the job, I rescind my notice, I've got a meeting about it tomorrow, or there's new beginnings on the horizon, which will be at the end of the year once I'm done with the job. And that's also very exciting. Either way, I mean, that one's more scary and it makes me nervous. But yeah, ultimately, they're both exciting potential new beginnings in many ways.
What kind of pushed you to put in your notice? Because this, like when you told me about it, it was so out of nowhere. What pushed you to do that? And then why are you feeling like rescinding it? That just doesn't make any sense. What happened?
I've been thinking about doing it for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion that I wanted to do it before the end of the new year. First of all, I wanted to do it before Christmas, and then it was the end of this year. And I don't know what it was that made me switch. I think I went away. Actually, I went to Italy for a few days, and I just came to the conclusion that I'd be happier living that life, traveling, more of a nomadic lifestyle where I can work from anywhere. I can set up a company and just live the life that I've been wanting to live for the last couple of years. So that's what pushed me to do it. And then why I rescinded it. Well, I haven't rescinded it. Why I'm considering rescinding it is because I went into the office on Friday and I just sat there and I was like, what am I had a bit of a panic. I was like, this is such a great company to work for. They're really good people. They support me. I've got a good thing going here and I'm just letting it go with no plan. I had no plan at all. So it was very impulsive, which we know is a problem and it was, I just regretted it. So I don't have a plan. And I think the big thing that scared me about it actually is come the end of the year, if I haven't taken action and I leave the job in 2 months and I have no plan, nothing to fall back, I think it's inevitable that I'll end up gambling. And that's what really scared me. And I thought, this isn't the right approach. I need to quit this job when I have a plan and when I have something to fall back on. I can't be doing it without it.
That's really interesting. I mean, so you're just like spending these next 2 months trying to figure out what you want to do?
Well, that was the plan.
Okay.
That was the idea I had in my mind. I was like, if I quit now, and I think we spoke about this because I listened back to the voice message that we sent each other, or you sent me a while ago. My idea was that if I hand in my notice now, I have 2 months to basically, I have to do something, have to kick into gear, which is something I'm lacking at the moment. At the moment, I'm just comfortable. I'm comfortable in this job, and so I'm not taking any action. Whereas if I hand in my notice, suddenly it's uncomfortable. I have to do something or I'm screwed. But then it crossed my mind that actually there's a very good chance that over the next 2 months, I won't do it. And I won't have any income come January. And I will end up relapsing, which would be a disaster. It would be an absolute disaster. But, that's what's really scary.
I think what I'm hearing is like the classic two things can be true, right? Like you went on this trip, you had this clarity while you were away to be like, actually, I'm not happy. I want more. I deserve more. I have this ambition for more. And then you come back to your story, right? And you are living it. And you're like, actually, this maybe isn't so bad. And I think Sasha knows this, but that's like that rings so true for me because I'm in a similar situation where you give me a little bit of space and I have these like breakthroughs. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do that. And then I settle back in and I'm like, actually, maybe I don't want any of it. But I think the one key difference for the two things that are true for you, yes, it's comfortable. Yes, there's this real fear of relapse, of failure, of all of that. There's only one person who is in charge of what happens. Like your success and your failures are all yours.
Of course. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think actually, no matter what I choose here, whether I choose to stick with my notice and see it out to the end of the year and work on something, because as you said, I have full control over that. I'm the only one who can make or break that the next 2 months. So if I decide to do that, then it's in my control and I have to do something. And I know what I need to do in order to not go down a bad path. And I just need to take action. Whereas on the flip side, if I stick at the job, it will be with a different mindset. It'll be with a new mindset where I really start to pour everything into the job and not just see it as a 9 till 5 that the moment the clock hits 5 o'clock, I'm done. And I switch the computer off. It has to be something where I really pour everything into work. And either way, they're both exciting. I think no matter which one I choose, one is scarier than the other and one is a much bolder, bigger choice. Technically, sticking with my job is still choosing the comfort zone to an extent, but it's not really because I would be pushing myself out of my comfort zone to really make this job work and to really pour everything into it, which is uncomfortable. It's not something I've done for probably 6+ months. So I think they're both actually exciting opportunities in many ways, which is why I would say that I put that as a bud, because they're both potential new beginnings in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that
Definitely.
also really rings true for me right now too, in a very different way. But it doesn't matter what life you choose. If you're at a crossroads or if you're at the verge of ending something, at the verge of beginning something, if you're at a crossroads or leaving a job, leaving a friendship, a relationship, moving, whatever, it doesn't matter which life you choose. Either way, it's the right life it's the right choice and the wrong choice. Either way, because doesn't matter what you choose, you still have the opportunity cost of giving up something else. So it's just a matter of like actually making a decision and sticking with it and just being okay with what you have to give up in order to do that, and understanding like when I make this choice, I'm all in and willing to put in whatever it takes to just come out on the other side. And at the end of the day, it's like thinking really deep down and spending some time in some serious deep reflection of what do you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a friend about this earlier today, actually, and she said you need to think about your 5-10-year plan as well. Which of these choices is going to aid in you getting to where you want to be in 5-10 years? Sticking with this job is a short-term benefit. It's going to benefit me in the next 1 to 2 years, maximum 5-10 years down the line, I don't want to be in a job like this. There is opportunity for progression in the current company, like massive progression. But is that what I want? Do I want to move up the corporate ladder? Not really. My long-term goal really is to have control of my time and of my finances and of a business, basically. I want to be in business in the long term, and this is not going to move me towards that. So that's something else I really need to consider, is what's going to be most beneficial for the future, both long term and short term. And short term, this staying at my job is going to stop me. Gambling is going to stop me from doing harmful things like that, potentially, if it got to that. Hopefully it wouldn't. And obviously, as Katie said, I have control over that. I'm the only person who can stop or do that. So, but yeah, there's a lot to think about, and I need to, I think, write down everything, write down to the pros and cons of both sides. But I think I know the long term leaving the job is for the best, but it's scary. It's really scary. I think that's what caused the panic on Friday when I was sitting in the office. I was like, shit, what if this doesn't work out? And yes, I'm the one that has power over that, but what if it doesn't work out? And I could potentially be in real trouble.
But what if it does?
I was just going to say that. You pulled it right out of my mouth. What if it does work out? What if this is the greatest decision and you look back when you're old and wrinkled and you're like, I could not have made a better decision at a better time. And I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
I think what's crossing my mind at the moment is that maybe it's right decision, wrong time. Maybe it's too soon.
I don't know. One quote rings true for me right now, which is life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. You knew I was going to say that? Oh my God. It's
and this
so
is
funny.
incredibly uncomfortable. It's incredibly uncomfortable, and there will be immense growth. So maybe it feels like you two are pushing for a certain angle here. You think maybe there's something you think is right in your mind. I don't know.
Josh, I have to say I have really selfish reasons. Okay, I have very selfish reasons for wanting you to quit and being a digital nomad. Partly because I want you to join me in being a digital nomad. Okay, so and we'll get into it.
Sasha wants everyone to quit their jobs. That's what it is. She loves to come places and tell you why you should quit your job, so that way you can be a digital nomad for our social life.
But listen, if people love their jobs and if it's a right fit for them, then it's a right fit for them. But it makes me so sad to see people and see my friends be in situations where they're stuck in something and then not feeling fulfilled. And even sometimes it can be toxic and then not do anything about it. When the thing that's happening about life right now is that we're in our mid-20s and we can do anything we want. Like, we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves into anything. Like, we could fuck up and then go and make different choices. And the whole point of our 20s is to make mistakes, is to throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. Like, we're way too young to just get pigeonholed into something that makes us miserable.
But isn't that the most paralyzing thing about it? I actually was thinking about that last night when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And it was like, being in your 20s, like, there's the two sides of it, of I can do anything, I can be anything, I can do whatever I want, I can forge my own path. And like, the other side of it is that paralyzing, could do anything I want. What do I do? How do I use this? How do I use this time and these decisions to my benefit? And like, how do I know I'm making the right choice? How do I know I'm not screwing myself? Like, how do I know I'm not going to look back and regret this, or regret that I did do this? And I think it's one thing to say, hey, you can take road A or B. It's another thing to say there are infinite roads and you have to pick one. It's just like that paralyzing thing, I think, that happens in your 20s, where on one hand, it's like every opportunity is in front of you. And the other hand is you have to choose. You as an individual have to choose what's best for you. And that's not easy. And balancing that too with wanting to go out, wanting to live your 20s like in the traditional sense. And how do I do that without completely ruining the rest of my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Like, how do I do that? But also balance not just having my nose to the grindstone, but also having my fun too. Like, how do you do that? And I think that is what's paralyzing about being in your 20s and having every road in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so paralyzing because you feel like you need to make a choice. And then I have to remind myself that we can make a choice and then change our minds. That's the other
It's
nice
true.
thing about being in your 20s is, yes, it's paralyzing, but sometimes it's almost better to just it sounds like, Josh, you really just need to spend some time in some you need to go for a run, you need to be in some deep reflection and just get down to your intuition and be like, "Actually, what do I want? What do I
Yeah.
truly want?" And yeah, maybe I do push you to quit your job, but I think that's also because we talk every week and for the last however many weeks, you've just been not happy.
Yeah, not happy, and I think there's an actual term for it, isn't there? Decision paralysis or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think I have had that for a long time, not just with work, but with so many different decisions that I've had to make. And obviously you've seen that. We talk every week. You see how I struggle to just decide on things, and especially with regards to work. But I think, ultimately in this case, there is no right or wrong choice. I think either way, I'm making a choice that's for growth. I think there is one path that will force and encourage, or no, not encourage, it will force more growth, but it's the scarier path. But maybe now is the time to be different. As you said, I'm 28, so I'm not mid-20s like you two. I am 28, I'm still in my 20s. And it's now is probably the time to be trying things like that.
Yeah, and you don't have to do
Yeah.
it alone either.
No.
You got a pal. Katie, let's rosebud thorn. What's happening with you?
Oh my gosh, I actually completely agree with Josh. It's hard to pick a rose, which sounds bad because obviously we all have wonderful things happening to us all the time. But somehow that's the hardest thing to pick out. Like I can sit here and tell you all the things that are wrong and I can tell you all the things that are coming, but like really focusing in on what's great is sometimes hard. Um, so I don't think I'm gonna start with my rose. I think I'm gonna start with my bud. And I think my bud is that with working in events, working in weddings primarily, my busy season is pretty much from May to the end of October. So coming into November, it's November 11th now, and just coming into that off season and just feeling like this actual physical sense of relief of like, I did it. Like it's over. I can look around, I can have a social life. Because it is hard, like working nights and working weddings and putting your everything into these other people's special day, like it takes a mental toll. It also takes a toll with my social life of I've missed family events. I've missed like all my nieces and nephews' birthdays because they're all in the summer and they're all on the weekends and having minimal time off. Like there was a month this summer that like I had one day off for I think 3 weeks, something like that, and trying to fit everything into it, like your family, your relationship, like all your grocery shopping, like laundry, like just all of the things fitting into one day. It's tough. It's like really tough. So getting to this point of the year and just slowing down, like I had one wedding this weekend and it felt like I didn't even know what to do with myself. I couldn't even believe. And so then prioritizing like where do I want to go? How do I want to spend the holidays? Like I have so much more time. Like I feel like I just got this huge deposit of time back. And it just like right now feeling, okay, I'm at the start of this break. I have pretty much until April that things stay like this. Like, how do I want to spend that time? How do I want to make the most of it? Downside to that is that it's wintertime. It snowed 3 feet here like the last couple of days. So it's really go out and do the fun stuff you can in summer. But like, how do I want to make the most of this time? So I think the bud is coming into this shift of energy and this shift of time and just the possibilities that I can really create with it. It's my bud for sure. My thorn, damn, so many. I think my thorn right now is I think I've really keep hitting this like block in my life, and that block is like, what is forgiveness? And like, how does one actually forgive another person without like actually still walking away, still holding on to some piece of it, some resentment, something like that. And it's come up throughout my life, but I'm in this situation now where I really have to face it. And I'm looking back, I'm like, I'm not actually sure I've ever forgiven anyone for anything. Like looking back, I'm like questioning this whole process that I thought I had mastered. And like looking back, I'm repeating the same patterns. I'm repeating the same like responses to things. And so my thorn is I really thought I had done all this work and I thought I had mastered something that I feel very new at it. To give background without giving too much background, there's like a family situation where I felt that I was wronged, I was hurt by something, I was put in a really vulnerable position, and it's been 8 months now, and I, like, didn't talk to anyone about it for a long time, and I just was like, "No, I forgive you. Everything's okay. I just wanna drop it. Let's just move on." And lo and behold, I did not move on. Haven't been able to go to these family events, haven't been able to, like, carry on relationships the way I want to, avoiding even just as simple as avoiding eye contact with this person, and I don't know, and then being faced with, "Well, why haven't you forgiven?" Putting a timeline on this forgiveness, and it's just getting to the point now with the holidays coming up and Thanksgiving and, like, how do you go it just feels so traumatic to go and be vulnerable with that, and especially when I thought I had mastered it.
Have you had a conversation with this person about what they did that upset you?
I did, yeah, and we actually talked a lot about it right after it happened, and I felt like I was okay, and then it was like the more I thought about it and the more I, like, stewed on it, the resentment just built and built to the point of where I would go into full panic every time I thought I had to go see them,
Okay. So you did have
and now I just avoid them.
Oh, interesting. So you had the conversation, you guys had that like closure, clarity, and you feel like you're still holding on to some sort of resentment, some sort of ickiness.
Yeah, tough because it's family, right? And I think there's this element of, "Oh, it's family, you have to forgive family, you have to do that." It's uncomfortable. And I think I've had this, I don't know, like, rebellious streak where I'm like, "Actually, no, I don't. I don't have to forgive you. I don't have to do that. I feel just fine holding on to this. I'll just hold on to it." And I think it's getting to a point where it's, like, hurting other areas of my life and other people in my life, and I'm faced with this crossroad of taking action, and I'm, like, paralyzed with what that action even is.
Yeah, like
Do
what
you
would
think
that
you
action
spoke
go
about it?
ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think you spoke about it enough at the time?
I think I spoke too much about it too soon. I think we talked it out and we moved on and we made a promise to be vulnerable. We made a promise to be, like, closer, and then walking away from it, I guess that maybe that wasn't genuine. The promise wasn't genuine, and I haven't upheld my side of it because I resent what happened so much.
Mm. Emotions are hard.
Aren't they? Damn.
Have you talked to this person recently saying, "Hey, like recently these feelings have been coming up about this thing that happened, and even though I know we have closure, it's still coming up for me." Have you said that at all?
I think the issue, how it got from feeling small to getting big again, is that there was this pressure to move on so fast. And I think there's one thing to have closure and let that happen, but then to just instantly want to go right back to a certain level of rapport, that's been broken. You've burned down. We are at ground zero. We're here. And I think that there's a lot of pressure initially to rebuild really quickly. And I'm like, no, I'm still here. I'm still at ground zero. And there was like a lot of pressure to rebuild too fast. And so then every time I was like rejecting the offers to rebuild, it was like one more like knife in the heart to this other person. And now it's gotten to a point of this person thinks that they've done everything that they can and it's in my court. And I think the most, like, damning thing about it being in my court is I just never wanted this in the first place. Like, it wasn't something I wanted. It was like a shit sandwich that was handed to me, and now I have to clean it up. Like, that's annoying. I don't wanna have to clean it up, and it's, like, in my court to rebuild. I'm still here. I'm
Yeah.
still at ground zero.
This is so interesting because it reminds me of something that we talked about with your husband, Jeff, which, first of all, love Jeff, love him. It reminds me of something that
Everybody loves Jeff.
I love Jeff. Jeff's the best person. What a kind man. Like, just a wholesome guy. Love him. But it reminds me of something that we were talking about with him when I was visiting you, which was it's something that you've actually been very challenged with. And this isn't the first time where it's so you feel like you've been wronged and then you almost get upset that like they've moved on and you now the work has been put back on you to
Yes. I
this is a
forgot we talked
pattern
about
in your life, Katie.
this is real. Where else does it show up in your life, Katie?
Yeah, do you feel okay, and my other question is, do you feel like it's showing up in your life we know it's shown up in your life in other ways, in other times of your life, and for any of those past instances, because I don't know the specifics, right? But for any of those past instances, do you feel like you have been able to move forward? And if you have, like, how did you do that? And what was the timing of it all? What did that look like?
Well, that's what I feel like most conflicted about with this thorn is that it's making me rethink, have I actually ever forgiven anybody for anything? Like, I'm not sure I have now because this pattern is like coming through so strong that, and of course, Jeff and all his greatness, he is loved to point out like, well, what about this time and this time and this time? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's exactly what's happening here again. Which just feels like really I feel defeated that like I maybe actually haven't put in the work I need to. And I'm just not even sure where to start. Like, how do you give up a resentment that is so red hot? It's like the hottest nerve. How do you just be like, I'm going to set that down. I'm going to get rid of it, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think if I think I just called this person up and was like, okay, like I let this go. We're good. Let's start over. It's not genuine. And I'm like, I want it to be genuine because it wasn't the first time. And I think I was trying to just give it space, and that space isn't spacing. It's not doing anything for me.
Yeah.
It's just like still up there on the shelf.
Forgiveness is hard. Like forgiveness without any sort of resentment, without any sort of, I'm not sure. What do you think, Josh?
Forgiveness is hard. I don't think, I mean, for me, I've always said that I'm neither good nor bad at forgiveness because I'm just good at letting things go. I don't hold grudges. And I know that it doesn't sound like that's what's happening here. You're not holding a grudge, but it's this feeling of resentment inside you that is this eating away. But it is a tough one. I've spoken to so many people who struggle with it and struggle to forgive others for serious things that have happened, non-serious things that have happened. And it's tricky to overcome, but I think it's largely, I mean, if you've spoken to them about it and you don't think there's any benefit in talking further, then clearly it's the self-talk, isn't it? It's coming from within. And as you just said to me about 10 minutes ago, who is the only person that has control over that is yourself, right?
And
But it's hard to know where to begin with that.
mhm. And I think it is me, and I do think that there is an action to be taken. I just want it to be genuine because obviously it didn't work the first time. I think the fear creeps in of, well, what if it doesn't work? What if we chat and nothing's different? What if I don't get the feeling I'm looking for? And I think it's just, I've been putting it off for way too long that now it's just bigger and bigger. And Jeff literally told me last night, you just need to face this head on, face it head on. I'm like, I'm not even sure how to do. I'm not even sure what that even looks like.
So it's like the logistical, like, how do I do this? That's keeping you up.
Yeah.
Like, how do I actually
For sure.
logistically forgive somebody?
Literally, it's like I think I can understand the theory of forgiveness. I can understand it on paper. You give me a test, I'd ace it. But I think the actual steps, ABC, and like how to walk away with that feeling forgiveness, feeling forgiven, feeling like I've given forgiveness. I'm not sure how to do that.
Well, what's this feeling
What-
that you're looking for?
I don't know. Do you remember when you were here, Sasha, and we were at that pizza place right by my house, it's 10 minutes away. And we were talking about this thing for like justice and like how like I feel like I need certain things before I can move on. What those things are, I think, is the self-work of I need to figure out what boxes need to be checked on my end to feel like justice has been served. And then I think once I have those things, then I think I can move on. But right here, we're in purgatory.
But it's also like getting those from somebody else. Like you're never really gonna, I mean, I feel like it's impossible to be like, I need to get these things from this person before I can move on. It feels like there's something in you. Like what is stopping you specifically? Because this is a pattern that's coming up where you have a hard time forgiving people. So what is it within you that, and I know it's like one of your core values that like when you've been wronged, it really messes with you. Like what is it about forgiveness that is so challenging? And I would take some time and think about like, where is this coming from? Has there ever been a time in your life where you have forgive somebody, and what did you do to get there? Is it truly just time? Is it truly just time? Is it truly just like you need to have like, some sort of mental perspective shift within you? Like there's so many different things, but it's like logistically, I would take some time and sit down and really, I'd sit on it like a lot because it's a pattern that's coming up.
I think my fear with forgiveness is it lets people off the hook, right? If I forgive you, then you're off the hook and like I can't punish you anymore. And if you're forgiven, you're off the hook and that gives you like freedom to do it again. And I think that's the root fear.
Maybe it looks like forgiveness, but with a boundary.
Mm,
Maybe it looks like, okay, like
yeah.
you did this once. Okay, fine. But here's my boundary for next time. Like, you can't cross this.
Right.
And maybe it means that. Maybe it means, okay, I've been wrong. Like, I need to put up walls around that to protect myself. So you don't have the power to do it again to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just like the step by step of what is it that I feel like I need before I can get there.
What do you think you
You know?
need?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I don't know. I think that's the self-work. I think it's like, what am I looking for that I haven't gotten or that I need to either get from myself or this other person? And I think letting them down off the hook, like, it's like that vulnerability that this person could do it again or do something similar, something to someone else I love.
Yeah. Yeah. Something to really sit on and really think about and move through, because it's like a big pattern thing and it's not going to be like a quick fix if this is something that's showing up again and again and again in your life. But it's something to really sit on for sure.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I
And then what's
completely
your rose?
And God, my rose. Here we go. I think my rose right now is that we are fixing to buy my house. So the house that we live in currently, we're fixing to buy it. And I think like the prospect of kind of taking that next step forward has been like really exciting. I love where we live. I love the proximity to everything. I just went through all the reasons I love where I live, and to own a home. Also, this is my childhood home. Like, I grew up in this house. It's very different than what it was when I was a kid, but to purchase this and own it and make it mine, and like the thought of having my own family in this house one day is really special. And I guess, and to that extent, it's a bud too. Like, I think there's so much more to come from this one rose.
That's so exciting.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. I'm pumped. And I mean, you saw it, Sasha. I love my little knickknacks at making it my pick.
Katie's home is a true nest. Like, she has nested to the max. It's such a homey home. Like, I feel at home in your home. Like, it's so homey.
We've got the cats.
The only cat, I was saying this on the podcast last week, that your cats are the only cats I've ever liked in my life. The only cats I've ever pet voluntarily.
It was a big moment. I remember you were like, this doesn't happen. Okay, this is big.
Yeah, it's a huge moment for me this year, is the fact that I liked your cats. A huge moment for me.
Mhm. That's the bud. Okay, 2025 cat lover coming your way.
Oh my God. But this forgiveness piece is really something to look at. Like, this pattern that's coming up for you. It's something to really look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to really unpack.
I think it's been something I've been able to put off and been like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know how to forgive. And then now that I'm like actually faced with the biggest challenge yet in forgiveness, I'm like, I don't think I know what I'm doing. I don't think. But I'll get there. I know I will.
Yeah.
So
I think this pattern probably comes from something from a long time ago. And I think understanding where it comes from would really help dissemble why it's holding you back so much in your life.
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go? Let's hear your rosebud and thorn, Missy.
Okay. My rose right now are friends and family. And I mean, I might get emotional on this podcast because you guys both know what I'm going through, which is very traumatic and really difficult. But my loved ones have been checking on me a lot. The last 4 or 5 days have been some of the hardest in my entire life. And it's been really nice, like people just calling me out of the blue. People who don't normally check on me have been checking on me, I think energetically, like people know something's happening. And all of this timing for everything, I don't think it's a coincidence that we picked today to record weeks ago. I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm going to a Tony Robbins event in 2 days. I don't like all of these timing things lined up so perfectly that it's crazy. But yeah, my rose for sure is my loved ones. Everyone in my life has really stepped up to support me because this is something really horrible I'm going through, which leads me to my thorn. And I'm not sure how much I'm going to keep in this episode and how much I'm going to take out. Obviously, you both know what's going on, but for the listeners, and I'm okay saying it because I know this episode's not coming out for quite a few months, but my relationship is my thorn right now. It's very abruptly and out of nowhere, very possibly ending. It was not something I was expecting. It was not something I was anticipating. Like, we were en route and we have verbally committed to each other. We've been en route to go to next steps, get engaged, get a dog, get a house. I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast, like these next steps that are happening with my relationship, and very abruptly out of nowhere, it was just sprung on me that my partner is having doubts. And not just doubts like, oh, these are doubts we need to work on and work through, like doubts like out of nowhere. It's been so abrupt and so out of nowhere that it's very difficult for me to process and very difficult for me to understand, because things have been so good for such a long time. Yes, we've had our challenges, and this last year we've been through like over a year now, we've been going through some serious stuff, but the last 6 months we've been putting in the serious work and we've been seeing progress. And then out of nowhere, this kind of just changes. But I'm really in the depths of despair here. Like I'm really processing emotionally through a lot of it, just allowing myself, if I need to cry, if I'm angry, because this is a very traumatic thing to go through when the person you love most you're on track for something, you guys are on the same page, and then out of nowhere, something changes, and it's very difficult for me, and I've been going through it quite a lot. It's like not something I was expecting ever, and I really love my boyfriend and I want to do life with him, and I love the life we've created, and I'm so excited for the future, but I can only do the work, and I can only put in all of the work that's been needing to happen with someone who's 100% in this with me, and that's not the case right now. And he doesn't even know where this came up from. He has no idea where this is stemming from. So it's very difficult for either one of us to grasp what we're going to do. We don't know if we're breaking up or not. We'll know within the next 4 days or so after our Tony Robbins event. But I don't think he really knows what happened. So it's hard for me to know what happened. It's hard to process for both of us, because literally the two people in it don't even know what's happening. So that's the thorn. And I'm sure like this is going to be something for all of you listening. This is going to be something that I'm sure Josh and I are going to be talking about a lot in the future episodes. This is something I'm going to be processing through for a long time, because either way, if we stay together or if we break up, it's going to get way worse before it gets better. Either way. And so yeah, it's a thorn. It's the most painful thing I've ever been through so far in my life. It's the most difficult thing I've ever been through so far in my life. It's very traumatic, and I'm having a very difficult time just functioning and surviving. Like, I'm just honestly doing my best to drink water, try to put food in my body because I'm barely eating at this point, try to sleep, just shower, get out of the house. I'm just trying to survive right now. Because, when your relationship isn't going well, it fucks up the rest of your life. Your relationship is the most important. Like, your romantic relationship is the most important relationship in your life, and it determines everything. So when you're in a fight with your partner, or when you're about to split up or whatever, it impacts everything else. So it's difficult for me to work. It's difficult for me to do anything. So all I've been doing is surviving, leaning on loved ones, watching TV, just trying to survive right now, which leads me to my bud. It's interesting because we're on the edge of splitting up out of nowhere, and it's really put me in a very unique and actually incredible opportunity. I came across this thought yesterday or the day before. I can't remember. All my days feel like fucking weeks right now. I came across this really interesting thought that I'm in my mid-20s, and that question, like, if you could, we talked about this like, 20 minutes ago? If you could do anything in your life, what would you do? And sometimes that question is like almost like paralyzing because there's so many questions. But I feel like whenever I ask that question, it's always theoretical. But this is the first time in my life ever where I've been able to ask that question with zero limits. Like, I can do literally anything I want to do. If my boyfriend and I split up, I can do anything I want to do. I can go anywhere I want to go with no limits. Like, financially, I'm okay. If I wanted to quit my 9-to-5 job and like travel for a year without doing that, I could. I've already reached out to my bosses and said, hey, I might need to like be a digital nomad and change my address, whatever. Regardless, I'm in this position right now where it's like the world is literally my oyster with no limits, no financial limits, no location limits, no limits at all. And it's like, wow, really? Actually, what do I want? What do I want in my life? If I could do anything, what would I do? And it's a very cool opportunity to be in your mid-20s, prime of my life, to be able to just like choose any life I want. Like I can do any life I want and come back to it. And even in the relationship too, it's like thinking about truly what do you want? But that's a really cool bud right now. It's like obviously ridiculously painful, but that idea of being able to grasp life by the balls and do literally anything is really cool position to be in. You know, I'm not tied down by anything. Like my only responsibility right now is rent. And if I'm not paying rent, I can pay for flights.
Yeah.
So Josh, it's something to seriously consider if you can't find a job in 2 months it's very possible that I'm going to be a digital nomad for a year if you'd like to join. We could do this. Mastermind moments.
I would love to. I would love to, but I think that's the way you need to frame it. Not necessarily involving me, of course, but that's the way you need to frame it, is that of course it's going to be difficult and you're going through a time of crisis and it's all very fresh. Of course, in these moments, it's natural for our minds to drift to the negative, to focus on the negative and to focus on it's all doom and gloom. And as you said, you're experiencing those emotions and you're letting that happen, which is good. That's a good thing. You need to process through those emotions. But I think in the long term, once you've gathered your thoughts, you've let yourself go through those emotions, that's how you need to frame it. And it will, obviously, it's going to take a long time to process everything. It's going to take a long time to move past it, depending on what happens, of course. But that's a positive outlook, and it's definitely the way that you need to be looking at things. And I'm glad you are. I'm glad that's a realization you've had. And we discussed this briefly a few days ago as well. And there is always, no matter what happens, once you burst through the difficult times, the initial tough times, there is always something to look forward to on the other side. Whether that means you're staying together, whether that means you're not staying together, there is going to be something to look forward to and opportunities for growth no matter what you end up doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the same thing Katie was saying is like two realities exist at the same time, right? It's like this one reality where, and I feel like I've been saying that for the last couple days, just with everything, even just the reasons why we're potentially splitting. But even the two realities exist at the same time where it's like on one hand, this is a very traumatic experience and it's very normal for me to go through what I'm going through. And like it's okay to feel the emotions and any breakup is hard, and especially after 7 years and not seeing it coming. Like, of course, this is going to be very difficult. Like, it's going to get worse before it gets better for sure. And it's going to be like very difficult to process through. And it's going to be painful, and it's already painful. But then the other reality exists at the same time where it's like the world is my oyster. I can do anything I want, be anything I want. Like it's limitless. I am absolutely limitless in this moment. I could choose any life I want. And both of those realities exist at the same time. And I think even if we did split where I'd be traveling, I'd probably be on the flights, like bawling my eyes out. And both realities are probably going to exist for a long time. So it's challenging to navigate right now, for sure.
I think there's room for both. And you're on nobody's timeline.
Yeah, literally no one's. Oh, guys. What do you think, Katie?
Do you feel like your heart and your gut and your mind are aligned, or do you feel like each of those are going another way?
I feel like it's so hard for me to think, feel, gut, heart, mind. I feel like they're all so jumbled right now because of the nature of how abrupt this was. Like how
Yeah.
out of the blue this was. Like my body is in such fight or flight right now that I can't make a decision in this state because I'm in fight or flight. Like my body's all over the place. I'm not functioning well as a human being at this point. So it's impossible for me to make a decision from this place, which thankfully I'm going to a Tony Robbins event literally in 2 days. So I'm deciding not to make any decisions until after I go through that, because I do feel truly like myself at these things. Like I do feel like I really connect back to like my true nature at these things. If you were to ask me this question last night versus this morning versus yesterday morning, like you're going to get a different answer. Right now, like in this very moment, I'd say I'm really close to leaving. But that's honestly, I would think I've just been thinking with my mind because my heart has just been so shattered that it doesn't even know what it wants. Like
It's not thinking.
it's not thinking. It's just feeling like, ow, thank you for putting me through a fucking blender That's like how my heart feels. Like, okay, like just rip it out. It's like a plate, just throw it on the ground and watch it shatter into a million pieces. Like it's impossible to know what my heart wants because it's broken. I'm heartbroken. And then is, to be honest with you, my gut right now, right? Again, body's in fight or flight. So never make a huge life decision like this in fight or flight, especially when emotions are so heightened. But if you were to ask me right at this very second, and again, could change in an hour, my gut is telling me to go and to be done because obviously I'm not going to get into the reasons. I'm not going to get into what happened. And you guys know just the treatment in the situation, like who I am to my core. Like, do I have enough self-respect to not put up with this? Like my gut is, there are things I want to do and there are things that are exciting to me. And like, I've put a lot of those things on pause for my relationship because that's what you do in a long-term committed relationship. You make sure that like you put that first. But now I'm in a position where I can do whatever I want, or potentially do whatever I want. So my gut right now says to go and to be done because it's just not fair to me. And also it's not fair to him to force something that's apparently not working. Again, thought it was, but I guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. How will you know when you have a decision made? What are you waiting for to know? What do you need?
Well, actually, it's really interesting that you say that because I was on the phone with Mary last night. She's been on the phone with me like for 2 hours every day, which has been a godsend. And everyone listening, you guys know Mary. She was on our episode 2 episodes ago. Our gal pal from Boston, or living in Boston, and she said something to me very profound. She said, "You're gonna know that it's a right decision because you're gonna come to this decision with 100% peace. Like you're gonna feel it in heart, mind, body." And my mind is probably always going to be conflicted about this because of how many nuances there are. Like relationships themselves are entire universes. Like truly the only people who know everything and who can really feel this out are me and my partner. And neither of us really know what's going on because both of us are confused. But I think I'm gonna know the decision is right when I come to 100% peace. And the thing is, funny enough, I had my last breakup at my last UPW, which is what we're going to, at the same event, same venue, same everything. And that's the experience that I had at that event in my last breakup. I knew I was ready to leave that relationship because I came to the decision with such peace. I was like, okay, this is ready to be done. And listen, if we break up and go do our own thing, single boy, single girl thing, and decide to get back together years later after we've continued to live our lives, that's an option too. But you never know in the future. But I think for now, like I'll know for sure when I come to peace and there's just like at least my heart and my gut are going to be aligned because I don't think my mind is ever going to be fully there.
Yeah. And I do think it's come it's never a good time for things like this to happen, but I think it has come at a good time in a way. At the right time more than good time because you are in a position where you're going to be with friends and family this weekend. You're going to be in an event which pushes growth, which pushes you to think about these things, and it is perfect timing.
It really is perfect timing. I mean, it's perfect timing that I'm going to have 2 weeks. Let's say we split. My dad's at the event, can drive me home. I'm going to have 2 weeks at home before I fly back to Miami to get my stuff. So I have 2 weeks to just wallow, fall apart, be with loved ones, just stuff my face in Thanksgiving. I mean, granted, it's the opposite of what I've been doing now. I have to remind myself to fucking eat right now. But I'll have 2 weeks to just fall apart. And then 2 weeks to fall apart. And then my plan B is to digital nomad and to just book one-way tickets and go visit Katie, go visit Mary, go wherever I want. I can go to Australia and live on a farm. I can go to South Africa and surf. I can go to Hawaii and live on the land, and I could do van life. I could do anything. I can do anything, which is cool. But not to say it's like any less painful. So for anyone,
How will you? I just have one.
Please.
For me, I'm very to me, I'm always logical about the steps, like the forgiveness thing. What do I need? Like the tangible A through Z. Like, how do I do it? How do you know? What are your markers for what peace feels like? Like, how do you know how will you recognize it when it comes? And that's for either scenario, right? Like A or B. How will you know what peace in that decision feels like?
That's a good question. I think it's like, how do you describe an emotion? How do you describe a feeling? It's like, how do you describe the feeling of peace? How do you describe the feeling of anger, like in your body? I think it's just, and there have been a couple of times in my life where, and I think I've described it on this podcast too. There have been a couple of times in my life where it's like my entire body knows a feeling is right. It's just this like overwhelming, like I just know it in my bones, and just like kind of peace is like almost a calmness to it, and not making like a decision out of this rash, like emotional up and down, but like a true calmness and a true, like it's a true calmness and a true, like with everything in my body, I know this is right. And that's what I'm looking for right now. Like it doesn't feel like that, obviously. And I've been caught in the last like 12 hours or so. I've been in a really intense, sad and anger wave of this whole situation. But yeah, I think I'm just looking for overwhelming sense of calm and almost like intuition, just like a gut feeling, and, just knowing with everything in my body that something is right. Either way, if I decide to stay, if I decide to go, and same for him. And I think both of us are trying to figure out right now. Both of us are trying to figure that out right now. And we'll see.
Is that a feeling you felt before?
What, this overwhelming like
Yeah.
calmness? Yeah, I think so. I think in my last breakup, I remember the feeling. Like I remember the very moment I decided to leave and what that felt like. And I also would almost equate it to the same feeling I've experienced with, for example, like going to Fiji or going to Coachella. Like everything in my body, like logistically doesn't make sense. Everything in my body was like, this is right. But honestly, the closest thing I can equate it to is my last breakup, where I just had this like feeling and this like this deep knowing that something was right or wrong for me. And who knows? It could really go either way, but it's impossible to say like what's going to happen, because what I feel right now might not be the case in 5 hours when I go home and see him,
Hmm.
you know?
And it's too soon to know. You can't expect yourself to know literally just a few days later. So you need to allow yourself that time, allow the situation that time. Eventually it'll.
Yeah, I think so. And just, I think right now my main focus needs to be like feeling through my feelings, leaning on my loved ones, just like surviving right now and just trying to calm my nervous system and get out of fight or flight. Because this fight or flight is really, it's impossible to make a decision when your body is like going through something traumatic. And when your whole life is being uprooted and upended out of nowhere, like for reasons that don't make sense, it's impossible to get like clear-headed because you're like quite literally going through something that's really traumatic. So life will never be the same.
I will. I was actually just talking with a friend who's going through a tough, similar but different, same but different, right, with her relationship. And I think when you come to these crossroads, there's a lot of pressure to make a decision, right? And like in that decision, there is that paralysis of, okay, this is going to change literally every aspect of my life. And one thing I told her is, and I think it applies here as well, is that the time, the energy, the love, everything that you've put into this relationship, like you owe it to yourself to put that much into the decision as well, right? Like you haven't been in this relationship for what, 7-ish years
7 years, yeah.
without all of that energy. And like you owe those 7 years. You owe Sasha in those 7 years, like the time and the energy and the grace to make an informed decision. And there is no rush. You're on no one's timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no rush at all. Well, we've decided to make a decision at the end of UPW. So by Saturday, we will have a decision. And we have plan A, plan B. And yeah, I mean, for the last 7 years, like I do owe it to myself and just my love for the relationship also to really sit on it. And like the only thing I can do right now is just take care of my body, survive, and then the right answer will come to me when it comes to me.
Just do the next right thing. And then you do the next right thing.
Yeah.
Next right thing.
Over and over again until you're dead.
Over and over until you die. And that's it.
No, but Josh, for realsies, like the digital nomad thing, it's a real possibility if you want a buddy. Like a real possibility.
Yeah.
That is something to consider in your own rosebud thorn, is that we could take Mastermind Moments on the road.
We could world tour.
Mastermind Moments on wheels. The wheel of life on wheels.
We really could. It's something to think about for you too. And I not to put any pressure on you, but if that's something you want and you have a pal that's potentially doing it, it's a real possibility. So something to seriously think about for yourself too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely, seriously something to consider.
Seriously.
But I need to figure out a plan as to how I would make it work. So I'll get that.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. And you never know, guys. We could get on another week and I could be like, I'm engaged. Everything's good. Like, we're in it. Like, amazing. Or I could just be at Katie's house with her cats in her homey home.
I love it. I'm noticing a theme here between the three of our, I guess you'd call it our thorn, is that we're all planners. We're like planning through. Like Josh is thinking through like his next step with his career. I'm thinking through what are the tangible steps I can take to improve this piece of my life. You're obviously going through this huge change and making a decision and planning that out. What do I do? Where do I go? And I think that's a huge theme for like people in their 20s in general, like making a plan and hoping to see it through and hoping it's the right one.
Yeah, and hoping, because at the end of the day, like we can change our minds, we can change, like we'll probably look back on this moment in a year, 5 years, 10 years, and it's a very transitional time for a lot of people, you know? I think there's something energetically happening. I mean, it's happening in the world too with everything going on. It's a very big transitional period, and we are planners and we want to plan everything out, but it's like, how can you plan for life when life has its own plan? Put that on a motherfucking t-shirt.
I'm putting that on a mug. I'm putting that on a mug.
I love you both so much, and thank you so much for your support. And also future me is thanking you for the support that I'm still going to be leaning on you guys for.
Of course.
But I love you guys so, so much. And I know even if shit goes down with my boyfriend, like that's my rose. I have amazing support system to lean on, and that's got me and has my best interest at heart. Yeah.
Absolutely. Summer camp never ends, baby.
Literally
Summer
never
camp
ends.
forever.
GYLS forever.
GYLS forever.
Okay, guys. Well, for everyone listening, thank you for listening to this episode. We love having Katie on. Katie, you for sure have to come back. And we should get the whole gang back together. I think it'd be really fun.
Let's get the gang back together. Any opportunity to do a rosebud and a thorn, I'm there.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for everything. And we love you so much. And yeah, we'll chat soon.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, you guys.
All right. For everybody listening, we'll catch you next week on Mastermind Moments. Bye.
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 We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on social media.
If you would like us to help you mastermind something in your life, please send us a message.
We'll see you next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast.